Good morning. Good morning. And welcome to Learning Life, Becoming Better. I'm your host, Angela Taylor, and I'm happy to be here each Saturday morning, beginning around 8 a.m. on both Facebook Live and on YouTube Live. Today, our truth is entitled Numbers 13 and 14. And it's probably not what some of you probably think. And it's probably exactly what some of you think. It is coming from our Bible because, of course, that's where we can always find the truth. This is one of our doses, not our daily dose, because we need more than a daily dose. Prayerfully, you're like me, and you need an uh, more than one dose of the truth each day in order to live your life better and to its fullest. So, number 13 and 14, I started to title it God has a question for you. But then numbers 13 and 14. So let's go straight to it because I'm starting a little late today. So let's go straight to it today. In our Bible, we have Numbers. Now, we're not going to read all of Numbers 13 and 14, but Numbers 13 and 14 tells basically about one of the reasons why the Israelites were wandering in the desert for 40 years. Okay, so many of you have already read most of this. Many of you have already heard about what occurred in chapters 13 and 14, but I'm not going to reread all of it. I'm just going to pull out key verses. Okay, so Numbers 13, Numbers chapter 13, verse 2 says, let me read verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Send thou men, that they may search the land of Canaan, which I give unto the children of Israel. Of every tribe of their fathers shall you send a man, every one a ruler among them. So this is right after God had brought them over the Red Sea out of Egypt into freedom. And so they have not been wandering in the desert for 40 years yet. This is before that. So they've just gotten their freedom. They've rebelled a few times already, but God is still leading them by a pillar of cloud in the daytime. So the Lord said, Send thou men that they may search the land of Canaan, which I give unto the children of Israel. So God says, I'm giving you this land that other people are inhabiting. Of every tribe of their fathers shall you send a man, every one a ruler among them. So send rulers. You're not sending untried people. You're not sending people who don't know, who are not leaders. Okay? You're not. That's not who Moses sent. Moses sent leaders uh, out to scout the land. And so then that's what Moses sent. That we're not going to reverse the rest of those verses. We're going to skip right on down to verse 17 through 20. Verses 17 through 20. And Moses sent them to spy out the land of Canaan and said unto them, Get you up this way southward and go up into the mountain and see the land what it is and the people that dwell therein, whether they be strong or weak, few or many, and what the land is that they dwell in, whether it be good or bad, and what cities they be that they dwell in, whether in tents or in strongholds, and what the land is, whether it be fat or lean. So that means whether the land is um, fruitful, whether it has um, whether it's farmland, whether it has good trees, whether it has animals grazing, whatever, whether it be or not, whether it be fat or lean, whether there be wood therein or not. And be ye of good courage. Yeah, you see that? With the instructions. And be ye of good courage. And bring of the fruit of the land. Now he's already expecting whatever fruit you find, bring. So he's expecting some fruit. And bring ye the fruit of the land. Now the time was the time of the first ripe grapes. So it's the season for some for the first ripe grapes to have to be there. So Moses is sending out leaders from each of the tribes to go spy out the land to see what what it is that God is giving to them. Because God said, I'm giving this land to Israel, but the Canaanites are there already. Send for a spy so you know what to expect. See, we keep saying that no man knows the future, and we don't know the future. But God prepares us today for tomorrow. He does. God prepares us for it. All throughout the God prepares us. There is no temptation that's come upon man that he does not make a way of escape. He's already prepared us for temptations. He's already prepared us for our tomorrow because he knows what's coming. He's already prepared us to step into our destiny. He's already preparing us for what's coming our way. He's when he tells us that he's given us a blessing, he knows what he's talking about. And so he's preparing us to receive that blessing. So he says, go here, send out the spies. And that's what Moses does. He sends out the spies. And he gives them specific directions. Check out the people, check out the land, check out the cities. Check it all out. Okay? Let's keep reading. Verse 20, we are in Numbers chapter 13, verse 23. And so, Numbers chapter 13, verse 23 is what I want to read. And they came into the brook of Eshau. And they, so the these are the spies that went out. And they came into the brook of Eshau and cut down from thence a branch with one cluster of grapes. Now remember, he said this is the time of the first fruit grapes, or the first ripe grapes. Um, they cut down one cluster of grapes, and they bear it between two upon a staff. That was a huge cluster of grapes. Most of us can have a cluster of grapes in our hand. For you to be able to, for you to have to bear a cluster of grapes between two men, that's think about that. And they bear it between two upon a staff, and they brought of the pomegranates and of the figs. Mm, mm, mm. Delicious. So they brought grapes. They brought a cluster of grapes. A cluster of grapes. And that's what they put upon the staff. And they brought of the pomegranates and of the figs. So extremely fruitful. God is so they brought that back. we're going to skip on to verse 30. And so they brought no, we're going to bring. And so they brought that back, and they went at verse 20. Verse 24. The place was called the brook Eshcol, because of the cluster of grapes which the children of Israel cut down from thence. They even named the place after it. They named the place after the grapes because the grapes were so huge, because the grapes were so huge between two men, because the place was so fruitful. Eshcol. Do you see that this is the place that God has told them to go in and they're going to possess it? This is the blessing that God is giving them. So in verse 20, we are in Numbers chapter 13, verse 24. That's when they name the place. Verse 25. And they returned from searching of the land after 40 days. Verse 26. And they went and came to Moses and to Aaron and to all the congregation of the children of Israel, um, unto the wilderness of Paran to Kadesh. So they were all still in the wilderness. They hadn't been there for long enough. And brought back word unto them and unto all the congregation and showed them the fruit of the land. Okay? So they showed them the fruit of the land. And they told him and said, we came into the land whither thou sentest us, and surely it flowed with milk and honey, and this is the fruit of it. See, God made a promise. God made a promise. I'm gonna give you, take you, what's going on there. Made a promise. I'm gonna give you a milk overflow, a land overflowing with milk and honey. They said it is. So they told him, we came into the land that you sent us to, and it flows with milk and honey, and this is the fruit of it. And I'm holding up my hand, and I shouldn't be, because remember, the fruit is so gigantic that it had to be carried between two people upon a staff. Okay. Nevertheless, the people be strong that dwell in the land, and the cities are walled and very great. And moreover, we saw the children of Anak there. The Amalekites dwell in the land of the south, and the Hittites and the Jebusites and the Amorites dwell in the mountains, and the Canaanites dwell by the sea and by the coast of Jordan. And Caleb stilled the people before Moses and said, let us go up at once and possess it, for we are well able to overcome it. So why did he have to steal the people? So first of all, they brought the fruit and they said, it's over. The land is as we said it was. Then they said, the people are plentiful. It's plenty of Canaanites, but they already knew people were already there. So I don't know why they got so up in arms about that. But the report was that the Amalekites dwell here and these people dwell there. So all these other people are there. But isn't that what we read earlier in the chapter, in the second verse? Okay. But the men that went, so Caleb stilled the people before Moses and said, let us go up at once and possess it. Let's go possess this good land that God promised us. Let's go grab a hold of our blessing, right? Let's go get it. As one of the songs says, go get your blessing. Let's go get it. But the men that went up with him said, we be not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we are. Verse 32. I'm in Numbers chapter 13, verse 32. And brought up an evil report of the land, which they had searched unto the children of Israel, saying, the land through which we have gone to search it is a land that eateth up the inhabitants thereof, and all the people that we saw in it are men of great stature. Well, first of all, if it eats up all the inhabitants, then why are there men that you see? That makes absolutely no sense. See, when people are trying to scare you and they're trying to throw stuff at you about why you can't do stuff and why you can't, they'll throw this, well, you can't do that because of this. This is it. Like that's such a, and if that doesn't do it for you, if that doesn't stop you, if that doesn't make you pause, then they'll throw up another reason. And and sometimes the reasons you'll be like, well, wait a minute. If the land is such that it eats up all the inhabitants, then how is it inhabited by anybody, let alone giants? So somebody's exaggerating here. That's usually what happens. Now, see, I can see with my eye the first, right, the grapes that they brought back, the pomegranates, and the figs. So the people saw their blessing. They've already heard God tell them what their blessing is. They saw a part of it. So it's like, yeah. But then they heard the evil report. What are you hearing? What are you hearing? And yes, there were people there, but that was already told to you in verse 2. Send you to the land of Canaan. Okay, so you would expect Canaanites to be there, would you not? We are in Numbers, chapter 13, verse 30. This is perplexing to me. Why some people go after don't that was the other title, endure, but they still want the prize. They don't run the race, but they want the prize. Well, you don't get a prize unless you finish. I know the world wants to give you a trophy for participating, but no, that's really not it. You don't get a paycheck for showing up. You actually have to do your job, or eventually you just don't have a job. Okay? So, verse Numbers chapter 13, verse 30. Um, where am I? Numbers chapter 13, verse 28 said, nevertheless, the people be strong. So they said the truth, and then they threw on the but this and but that and but this, and they be stronger than us. And Caleb said, let's go up at once and possess it, for we are well able to overcome it. But the other men were like, now remember, these are rulers. Yes, verse 2. Of every tribe of their fathers shall ye send a man, every one a ruler among them. Okay? And they said, but they are stronger than us. And that may very well be true. And they brought up, verse 32, and they brought up the evil report. So then they had to come. So because Caleb said, well, let's go up and possess it anyways. So let's go through. Let me stop and go through the events here. So the blessing was shown to them. The blessing was shown here. Here's the fruit that here's the it's overflowing. The land is overflowing with milk and honey. But it's and then they said these people dwell here, these people dwell here, these people dwell here. The cities are walled and very great. Um, People be strong. They dwell in the land. That was the first time. And so then Caleb said, let's go up at once and possess it, for we are well able to overcome it. But the men that went up with him said, we be not able to go up against these people, for they are stronger than we. And they brought up an evil report. So because the first time Caleb stilled the people and said, listen, let's go up. We are well able to overcome this. Okay, that was the encouragement. Listen, you're well able to overcome it. Well, you're built for that. You can handle this next job. You can handle that promotion. You can handle whatever's coming your way. That's okay. It's just a little hiccup in the plan, and maybe your plan, but it's still going along with God's plan. Whatever God said your blessing is, then that's your blessing. Whatever God says is going to happen, then that's what's going to happen. He said that He'll be your provider. Then okay, your bills are funny, but don't worry about it. God's going to provide. He told you to start that business, and things don't seem to be going all that well. Well, and then you get your encouragement. It's like, well, that's okay. God's going to make a way. You're going to overcome. You can overcome this recession. You can overcome this all these inflationary prices. Okay, God told you to. You're walking with God. You're living. Um, you're believing God for whatever blessing you're believing God for, and you think this is your lifelong mate, and God, and they say something or do something, and it's like or you have a big argument, and you're rethinking some things, and your confidant or Holy Spirit or someone encourages you and says, that's okay. That's not a game changer. That's not a you can work with that. Okay. So he's not making as much as you thought, or she's not making as much as you thought. And okay. So his lifelong goal is a little different than what you thought it was. Okay, we might be able to work with that. You can maybe overcome the difficulty. All right. Yeah, they have you. So there are blessings that are prepared for us, and with everything there are hiccups. There are things that we don't expect. There are things that come up against us, and then we get a little bit of encouragement, and that's what Caleb said. Caleb was like, well, let's go on up at once and possess it, for we're well able. Well, then what happens many times is you start hearing stuff. And some of you hear stuff through your eyes because you start looking at too many things. So you start hearing stuff. And they brought up an evil report. They first of all they say we can't go up. They're too strong for us. Okay, and so and so to reinforce that they're just too strong for us. To reinforce, well, you can't do anything. The prices are going up, and everybody's going to be hit. And you can't just start your restaurant now. Anybody gonna go to your restaurant And everybody's losing the job. Nobody's going to be able to afford this. Nobody's going to be able to do that. Why are you starting that business now? Why are you giving to that charity now? Why did you decide to start giving more now? You need to be holding on to that because you need to be building up your savings because, things are going to be getting tight. That's what happens. You know what? Yeah, the Lord said that your daughter was coming home, but she probably gonna come home, but just give it some time. She might not be coming home soon. Don't press it too much. They making everything so much easier for her to get her hands on. Everybody's still writing the prescriptions, and now they even make they certain things illegal, and they just making it so much easier for her to stay hooked on. So just be there with her and bear with her. So people bring up things, but that's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. Once an alcoholic, always alcoholic. His daddy was an alcoholic. He's alcoholic. They have those generational curses. People start bringing up stuff, and they say, "Well, you could leave it, but it may never leave you. You thought you were free from your drugs, but they always calling you. So you're not gonna be free." So people will talk you back into. People will talk you out of your blessing. And yes, you can miss out on the blessing. I'm going to show you. We're going to keep on reading here in the Word. In the Word. So, even though Caleb said, let's go do this now, the men came back and said, no, we can't do that. They're stronger than us. And they tried to reinforce it by saying, and they did reinforce it because the people listened to them. They said that the land is horrible. It eats up the inhabitants thereof. Now this is the same land that's flowing with milk and honey. And all the people that we saw in it are men of great stature. Everybody, who are you? That's who are you? Who are you to want more? Who are you? Everybody else who does this ends up dead. Everybody else who tries to open this type of business during this time ends up failing. Everybody else who gives their mate another chance on this ends up divorcing. 60% of marriages end in divorce now within the first 3 years. Why are you trying to hold on? There's other fish in the sea. All of that you hear. And all the people that we saw in it are men of great stature. Ain't nobody else trying to live right. Why you? We already know it. Ain't nobody perfect. Please, you trying to do all that? That's too much. You will hear it and you will see it. When you are trying to overcome, when you are trying to walk in your blessing, when you are trying to walk in your destiny, you will get some encouragement, but you will get some negative, and most of the negative will be so exaggerated because the whole point is to discourage you. But it's true. There is prices are high. It's true. A lot of marriages do end up in divorce. It's true. A lot of people whose parents are alcoholics are also alcoholics themselves. Not all. See, they said all. There's a lot of them. So they said, all the people that we saw in it are men of great stature. And there we saw the giants and the sons of Anak, which come of the giants. And we are in our own sight as grasshoppers. And so we were in their sight. Okay? So this is their report. And the congregation lifted up their voice and cried, and the people wept that night. This is Numbers chapter 14. So this is their report. So now after this all is extra negative. They were like, it's too much. It's too much. So after you thought things were getting better, or you done sat there and prayed and you just tried to work some things out, and you just like, it's just too much, Lord. It's just too much. This is just, oh, this, I didn't expect all of this. It's just too much. I just need a breather. I need a break. I can't believe all of this. I'm trying to do this right. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to grow a business. I'm trying to live right. I'm waiting on my maid, or I'm looking for my maid, if whatever. I'm trying to hang in there with my maid, whatever. I'm trying to raise my kids right, trying to take care of whatever it is. I'm trying to be more charitable. I'm trying to be more loving. Trying to be more, whatever it is that you're trying to do to walk into your blessing. And you're just like, but something has you crying and weeping that night, because that's because things seem worse than what they were before you started. This is where the children of Israel are right now. That's where they are. In Numbers chapter 14, and all the congregation lifted up their voice and cried, and the people wept that night. Because, let's read. In verse 2, and all the children of Israel murmured against Moses and against Aaron, and the whole congregation said unto them, would God that we had died in the land of Egypt, or would God that we had died in this wilderness? Wherewith hath the Lord brought us unto this land to fall by the sword, that our wives and our children should be a prey? Were it not better for us to return into Egypt? Now listen. Sometimes we forget how bad things were. First of all, let's find somebody to blame for this. Okay, so first of all, we're gonna, whose fault is this? Let's blame Aaron and Moses, because there's giants in the land. We're gonna blame Aaron and Moses, because people already inherit the land. Let's blame Aaron and Moses because of that. Because now we're scared to walk into our blessing. Let's go ahead and blame somebody else. Yeah, that's, I'm crying and I'm weeping, and because I things aren't going the way I thought they would go. Things aren't going the way I planned they would go. Whew, thought I would be stronger, thought I would move forward, thought, and same stuff just keeps happening. And so they're crying at night. And they're like, and then they start murmuring against Moses and Aaron. And Aaron saying, so God could have just had us die in Egypt. We brought us out to the wilderness to die. In chapter 14, verse 3, it says, and what for had the Lord brought us into this land to fall by the sword, that our wives and our children should be a prey? Were it not better for us to return into Egypt? And they said one to another, let us make a captain and let us return into Egypt. Now remember, they were slaves in Egypt. They were slaves. They were not slaves as in indentured servants. They were slaves that were forced to do hard labor. They were slaves that were whipped. Okay, so they were slaves under a hard taskmaster. And when they talk about um, that our wives and our First of all, to fall by the sword, they were beaten to death. When they were building Pharaoh's cities, if they died, they were easily replaceable by another slave. So, and they're complaining now, saying that why has the Lord brought us into this land to fall by the sword? That our wives and our children should fall prey? Wasn't it better for Isn't it better for us to return to Egypt? Okay, let's look at your wives and your children. Your wives could be taken from you at any point in time, and your children could too. Your children could be taken and put into anybody else's home. Matter of fact, all of your at one point, all of your children were killed who were under the age of 2, and that's why Moses' mother had to put him in a basket. So what are you talking about? See, people, you forget how bad things were for you before. When you start going through your new trial, when you start going through your new difficulty, when you start going through your new challenge, no, this isn't the same one that you had before, because that one God helped you overcome. But you forget how bad it was. They're sitting here talking about going back to Egypt. Why did the Lord bring us out here to fall by the sword? That our wives and our children should be prey. Let's go back to Egypt. But they forget. They have forgotten. And they haven't been out here. 40 years has not started, people. They have not been out here that long yet. Not yet. No. This is within months of crossing the Red Sea. And they have forgotten. We so quickly forget how bad things were. And at some point, I know in the Bible somewhere it says it's like dogs returning to their vomit. We forget that that's the stuff that we wanted to come. That's the stuff that wasn't good for us. So many return to their old ways of doing things because they have knocked it out of their memory of how bad it actually was. See, things are worse when you're in the moment of it. But once it's over, because you are now in a different state of mind, it doesn't seem as bad as it really was. But come on now. Don't let your mind play tricks on you. They were that bad. Things were that bad. Mm. So we have so they played the blame game, and then they forgot where their where they came from. They forgot how bad their condition was. See, the reason you wanted to start a business, you forgot how bad what you were sick and tired of before. The reason you ended up with this person is because those other five, those other two, those other 22, those other 122, you done forgot about the problems you had with all those problems you had to go through. And you want to go back into the dating scene? See, you forgot about how bad it was. Last time you came out of the drug house, you forgot about how you felt the first hour when you were in your right mind. You forgot about how the guilt and the shame, because you lived. You forgot about your self condemnation. that you felt the last time you sold your body. You've you didn't forget about it completely, but you've forgotten about how bad it was. And you're like a dog returning to its vomit and going back to bad habits and making the same bad choices, even though you've seen a better way, even though you know the blessings of God, even though, even though you can miss, you can miss your blessing. Because God said He would bring them into a land overflowing with milk and honey. And that's what the report was. But the reason they're going to miss their blessing is because they listened to the other part of the report. See, men can add on to what God says and help you miss your blessing. Yes, they can. That's why the Bible says don't add on to what God says. So in your I don't know. So here's what happened. Here's how they missed their blessing. This is how they missed their blessing. Let's go to well, we're in chapter 14. So chapter 14, I know I'm not supposed to read verses 1 through 23. Okay, so I've read 1 through 3. Verse 4, and they said one to another, let's make a captain, let's return unto Egypt. You got to be kidding me. For 40 years, you guys had been, not 40, 400 years, you guys had been slaves, and you want to return to that? Are you want to return to that? America, wake up. You want to return to having a go? Mm, okay. Verse 5. Then Moses and Aaron fell on their faces before all the assembly of the congregation of Israel. And Joshua the son of Nun and Caleb the son of Jephunneh, which were of them that searched the land, rent their clothes. And they spake unto the company of the children of Israel, saying, the land which we passed through to search is an exceeding good land. What God has for you is good all day long. What God has for you is good. Only rebel you not against the Lord, neither fear the people of the land. Don't fear the people of the land, for they are bread for us. Their defense is departed from them, and the Lord is with us. Fear them not. But all the congregation bade stone them with stones. See, you're afraid. You're afraid. You're afraid of putting yourself out there and looking like a fool. You're afraid of reaching for something and failing and feeling like a failure, but you forget that you were already a failure before, and you forget where you were before anyway. Mm. But fear. And so Aaron and Moses are saying, only rebel against the Lord. Neither fear the people of the land, for they are bread for us. Don't be fearful of what all these people say. Yes, they are crazy. Yes, they are crazy people all over the globe. It's ridiculous. And they will do just about anything and they will say just about anything. But don't you be fearful of them when you are holding on to your blessing, when you are going after the destiny that God has chosen for you, when you are reaching for the promises of God It doesn't matter if this entire world is against you. Hold on, endure. You can see it. God, you can see. Many of us are like, I want to attain this goal, or I want to attain this goal. I want to reach, I'm reaching for this and I'm reaching for that. Because we see it in someone else. We see it with someone else. We see it in another place. We see it, or we can envision. God has given us even a vision of ourselves or a thought. We see that. But then we see the failures. But then we hear about all of this. But then things come up. We things come up. And then I get stressed out and I want to go back to my smoking. Then I hit this hurdle and it was going to be easier for me to lie to get what I need than for me to tell the truth. Then something else goes wrong. And maybe I need to find another fish in the sea than trying to stick with you. Then, see, there's always a then, as long as you continue living, there will always be some things that come up against you. Always. Always. So we are in Numbers chapter 14. But all the congregation. So Aaron and Moses, even after being blamed, they are still trying to speak to the children of Israel. They said, the land which we passed through to search is an exceeding good land. So they've heard from the other people, from the other rulers, that it's overflowing with milk and honey. This fruits, grapes that two people have to, a cluster that two people have to carry, pomegranates and figs. If the Lord delight in us, if the Lord delight in us, then he will bring us into this land and give it us, a land which floweth with milk and honey. Only rebel not ye against the Lord, neither fear ye the people of the land, for they are bread for us. Their defense is departed from them, and the Lord is with us. Fear them not. In the New Testament, it says, if the Lord is with you, then who can stand against? But all the congregation bade stone them with stones, and the glory of the Lord appeared in the tabernacle of the congregation before all the children of Israel. And the Lord said unto Moses, how long will this people provoke me? God is asking, how long? How long are you going to continue not believing him? God is asking, how long? How long are you going to sit on that fence trying to go back and forth? How long are you going to say, I love the Lord, and not put your trust in him? How long? How long will this people provoke me? And how long will it be before they believe me for all the signs which I have shown among them? This is God speaking. God's asking, how long? How many times do I have to bring you out of the drug house alive when you see the other people dying? How long? God says, how many times do I have to make a way for you to pay your light bill? When you see people, when you drive by people living on the street who don't even have a home, how long? How long do I have to give you yet another job when you know others can't find even one? How long? God says, how long? How long do I have to keep your house protected? When you heard the fire truck go by 3 times this past week, How long? How long? How long? How long will this people provoke me? And how long will it be before they believe me for all the signs which I have showed among them? How many times does he have to have you recover from COVID when you know that hundreds of thousands, when you know that millions of people have died from it, not over hundreds of years, but over 2 years? How God says, how long will this people provoke me? And how long will it be before they believe me for all the signs which I have shown among them? How many times do you have to fall and have God pick you up before you can trust Him to keep you from falling? How many times? How many times does He have to heal you? How many times does He have to step in just before you go into your diabetic coma? How many times does He have to make a way? How many times does He have to show you before you put your trust in Him? How many sermons do you have to hear? How many songs do you have to listen to? How many breaths do you have to take before you realize? How many times does He have to deliver you home safely after drinking when you know that others have made? How about this? When you know that you didn't even know how you got home. God is asking the question. God is asking the question. So God says in verse 12, and this is why I say you can miss your blessing. You can miss your blessing. In verse 12, God says, I will smite them with the pestilence and disinherit them, and will make of thee a greater nation and mightier than thee. And so then Moses intercedes for the people, for the same people that wanted to blame him for everything. And they didn't say sorry, and they didn't say we no, not at this point. But Moses interceded and said, Lord, please don't do that. And so when we continue to look, God pardons the people, but He says this generation right here, they won't see them. Their children will. Their children will see the promise that I made to the fathers, because God can't go back on His promise. So he said the seed of Abraham was going to be blessed and stand. So a whole generation. This is the beginning. He said they've turned their back on me. They've not trusted me. This wasn't the only time. This was, God said 10 times. And so a whole generation died without going into the land. Only Joshua and Caleb of that generation went in. So all of those who came back with the bad report and all of those who listened to it, That and all of those who said that, why did God bring us to this point? Things look worse than what they were before. Didn't want to believe in God. Didn't want to go through it. Looked at all of what they were up against. See, this is the problem. They looked at what they were up against and they said they're stronger than us. They're bigger than us. But they didn't listen to what God's appointed said. They said God is with us. So doesn't matter how big people are. Doesn't matter how big governments are. Doesn't matter how big or small the economy is. Doesn't matter how big the addiction is. Doesn't matter how big the stress is. Doesn't matter what it is you're up against. It could be stronger than you. It could be bigger than you. But if God is with you, there's nothing bigger than him. There's nothing stronger than him. Let me help you out. There's nothing even on his level. If God is with you, remember that. Things may seem worse. They may even be worse. We always say, well, things are looking worse. No. I'm just going to testify and say they are worse. But there is no, there's there's nothing that is too bad for God. I can't handle it. God can. You can't handle it. God can. You can't overcome it. God can. But you have to trust in him. You have to move forward. You have to continue on. We are going to face adversity. That is life. You're going to face adversity. You are going to face adversity. That's life. When we can see the promise, when we can see that God can keep people healthy, when we can see that God can keep people married for a long time, happily married, then we know that he can do the same thing in our marriage. When we can see that God can make businesses grow, then we know he can do that for us. When we can see that God can heal others, then we know he can do that for us. When we can see that God can regulate people's mind, then we know he can do it for us. When we can see that God can bring people out of addictions, then we know he can do it for us. When we know that God can have sons and daughters return home, return that were lost, and we can see that they can return, then we know it can be done with God. And we can see all those things. We see and we hear the worst, and we give up. And because our expectations are so high. Now listen, keep your expectations high. Because our expectations are so high, when we let these other things influence us, we have a farther place to crash down from. And so this is why they forgot that they were not indentured servants. They were slaves under a hard taskmaster. This is why you forget where you were. This is why you sometimes forget what he's already helped you come through. People give up on their promise because of adversity. Adversity is something you will have every day of your life. You can either give up or you can overcome. You cannot overcome by yourself. And God is not going to have you overcome without Him. Because you by yourself, you're not bigger than the government. You're not bigger than the economy. You're not. You're not bigger than your addiction. No. Once your body is hooked, yep, you're not bigger than your mental illness. You're not bigger than the bad influences. You're not bigger than what's inside of you. It's inside of you. God is. And God says, when are you going to trust me? How much more do you need to see me do in your life? God says, when are you going to trust me? These people, so these people missed out on their blessing. I'm at the end of my time. What is holding you out? Why are you holding out? Why are you saying that's not for you? Why are you saying God's way is not your way? Why are you saying what's stopping you? Is it because you've forgotten that you already tried this? You've been trying it. How many years do you have to be out there? 5, 10, 40, a lifetime trying the same thing that's not working and never going to God, never staying with God, complaining about all that you do and all that you have to do and whatever life is taking you through. You're going to do that for the next 5 years? Or you're going to do like Caleb said, let's go in. Let's do this right now. Guess what? You're given today. 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 Take control of your life and trust God. Today. Today. Don't keep putting it off. He never said he was a genie in a bottle. God never said he was a genie in a bottle. He said that you are more than a conqueror. That's what God said. So today, go out and conquer. Go out and conquer. Go out and conquer the giants. Go out and conquer your fears. Go out and conquer what people say. Go out and conquer the way it is. Go out and conquer the way it has been. Go out and conquer your generational curses. Go out and conquer your internal problems. Go out and conquer the mental illness. Go out and conquer the physical illness. Go out and conquer your doubts and your fears. Go out and conquer today your self-condemnation. Go out and conquer your laziness. Go out and conquer your lassitude. Go out and conquer your attitude. Go out and conquer today. Because with God, all things are possible. With God. But you have to stay with Him. You have to believe Him forward today. Not, it can turn into 40 years and it can turn into your lifetime and you can miss your blessings. They did. I want my blessings and I want my children to have theirs. I don't want to miss mine and they get theirs. I want mine and I want them to have theirs. And that's how God wants it. Go out today. Today. Whether you are 20 or 52 or 92, believe God and abide in Him. Be blessed in Jesus' name. I'm Angela Taylor. I will prayerfully see you next Saturday, somewhere around 8 a.m. on Learning Life, Becoming Better. And I thank you. Have a great day.